She live-streamed my panic attack on Instagram with the caption, "When your firefighter boyfriend is more dramatic than a soap opera." When I asked my ex to stop, she said, "This is going viral. Don't ruin it." I walked out mid-attack. The next day, she blew up my phone with 67 missed calls begging me to undo what I did. The smell of burnt wood clung to my skin, no matter how many showers I took. My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 34 years old, living in a small apartment on the edge of Springfield, Illinois. Most nights, I can't sleep for more than a couple of hours. I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying that night over and over until I can't tell what's real and what's just in my head. The fire was a year ago, but it still feels fresh. An old apartment complex on Elm Street went up in flames faster than I thought possible. I pulled out 3 people, but I couldn't save Angela. She was a mother of 2, caught in the kitchen when the gas line blew. She handed me her baby. God, she was so calm, and told me to take him first. By the time I got back, the ceiling was gone. The smoke was too thick, and I couldn't find her. I still hear her screams when I close my eyes. Dr. Feldman says it's PTSD, like that label is supposed to make it easier to live with. He's got me on some meds to help with the panic attacks. But some days I feel like they just make me foggy instead of better. Loud sounds set me off, and smoke, Christ, even the smell of it, can make my chest tighten so bad I can't breathe. Carla used to be so patient. She'd sit with me when I woke up in the middle of the night, shaking and sweating, whispering that I wasn't there anymore. I thought she understood, but lately, it's like I can see the wall she's building between us. Last week, we were at her cousin's barbecue, and someone lit one of those little fire pits. I had to step away. I thought I was going to pass out. Carla followed me, but instead of the usual soft voice, she just looked at me and sighed. "When are you going to be normal again?" she asked, like it was a choice. I tried to explain, tried to tell her how my heart still pounds every time I smell something burning, but she wouldn't listen. "It's been a year," she said, like that was supposed to mean something. Like there was some timeline for grief and fear. Now, even the small things are starting to feel like too much for her. Yesterday, I dropped a glass of water when a car backfired outside. She didn't even ask if I was okay, just rolled her eyes and went back to scrolling on her phone. I can feel it happening, the way she's slipping away. I don't blame her. Who wants to be with someone who can't even handle the sound of a damn car backfiring? Someone who still wakes up screaming in the middle of the night? I've been going to the firehouse more, even on my days off. Vince, my buddy from the engine company, says I'm pushing myself too hard. Maybe he's right, but being there feels better than sitting at home with Carla's silence. At least at the station, the guys understand. They don't look at me like I'm broken. I don't know how much longer Carla and I have. Every time I see that tired look in her eyes, I wonder if she's already decided, if she's just waiting for the right moment to tell me she's done. I wouldn't blame her. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if it can be fixed, but I'm trying. That has to count for something, right? It was a Friday night at Carla's place. She'd picked out some thriller to watch, something with explosions and car chases, even though she knew how those kinds of movies messed with my head. I didn't say anything. I just tried to act normal. She was stretched out on the couch, legs draped over mine like we hadn't been drifting apart for months. About halfway through the movie, there was this huge explosion on screen. The blast was so loud it rattled the windows, and I felt it in my chest. My breathing got tight, and I tried to remind myself it was just a movie, just pixels on a screen, but I could feel the sweat prickling at my temples, my hands starting to shake. Carla turned to me, her eyebrows raised. "Are you okay?" she asked. Her voice was casual, almost bored, like I was interrupting her fun. I nodded, even though I wasn't okay. I was lightheaded and cold all over, and my heart was beating so hard I thought I'd throw up. I focused on my breathing, like Dr. Feldman taught me. In for 4, out for 6. In for 4, out for 6. But I couldn't block out the sound of the fire, the rush of heat in my memories. My chest was so tight I thought I'd pass out. I pressed my fingers to my temples, trying to ground myself. Then I realized Carla had her phone out. At first, I thought she was checking a message or something, but then I heard her voice. "Hey, everyone, check this out. Ryan's having one of his moments again." She was filming me, live, streaming it to God knows who. I blinked, too stunned to speak. "Carla, stop," I said, my voice cracking. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. I reached for the phone, but she just leaned back out of reach. Her lips curled into this smirk I'd never seen before. "Come on, Ryan, lighten up. People think it's fascinating, watching how your mind works when you flip out," she said. She laughed like it was some kind of joke, like my panic was just another piece of content for her page. I felt like I'd been punched. "Please," I said, my voice shaking. "Turn it off. Please, Carla. This isn't funny." She didn't stop. She didn't even look at me, just kept her phone trained on me, her smile growing wider. My vision was tunneling, the room spinning around me. I stood up, knocking over the bowl of popcorn she'd set on the coffee table. I didn't care. I said stop. My voice came out rough and louder than I meant it to, but she still didn't move. She just looked at me like I was some kind of animal performing for her. I didn't even grab my jacket. I just turned and walked out, my chest so tight I could barely breathe. I could still hear her laughing as I stepped into the cool night air. My legs felt shaky, but I forced myself down the steps and into my truck. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Carla's voice, calm and chipper. Babe, where are you going? Don't be so dramatic. It was just for fun. I didn't answer. I didn't even look at the screen. I drove around for a while, the windows down, the night air sharp on my skin. I couldn't believe what she'd done. That she'd think my panic attack was just entertainment. That she'd share it with people who didn't know me, didn't understand, who'd probably just laugh along with her. When I finally pulled over, I just sat there with the engine idling, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I'd thought Carla was my safe place, the one person who understood how messed up I felt. But seeing her with that phone, hearing her voice like I was some sideshow act, I realized she didn't see me at all. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back to her place. I couldn't let her do that to me again. My mind was still reeling, but I forced myself to breathe slow and steady, gripping the wheel like it was the only real thing left. Somewhere deep inside, the part of me that still believed I deserved better was whispering, "You don't have to stay. You don't have to let her make you feel like this." So I started the truck, turned up the music loud enough to drown out my thoughts, and drove toward the one place I knew I'd find someone who would understand. Vince's place. My brother in the department, my friend, and maybe, for tonight at least, my lifeline. Vince lived about 20 minutes away, in a small brick house that smelled like coffee and old smoke. He was one of the few people who never looked at me like I was broken. I didn't even bother to call ahead. When I pulled up in his driveway, the porch light was already on, like he'd been expecting me all along. I sat in the truck for a minute, my hands still tied on the wheel. I didn't want to walk in there shaking like some scared kid, but I couldn't make the tremor in my fingers stop. Finally, I took a deep breath and climbed out. My legs felt unsteady, but I forced myself up the front steps. Vince opened the door before I could even knock. He took one look at me and stepped aside, giving me that quiet nod he always did when words weren't enough. I stepped inside, the smell of strong coffee and burnt toast grounding me somehow. It felt safe here. Real. "Hey, man," he said, his voice low and calm. He didn't ask why I was there. Didn't ask if I was okay. He just pointed to the couch. "Take a load off." I sank down into the worn cushions, my shoulders finally relaxing a little. Vince disappeared into the kitchen, came back with a chipped mug of coffee. He set it on the table in front of me and sat down in the armchair across the room. We didn't talk for a while. I just sat there staring at the steam rising from the coffee, feeling the weight of everything that had happened in Carla's apartment pressing down on me. Vince didn't rush me. He never did. He just sat there, watching me with that steady, patient look he always had. Finally, I took a sip of the coffee. It was bitter and too hot, but it grounded me, made me feel like maybe I wasn't completely falling apart. "She filmed it," I said finally, my voice rough from the cold air outside. "Carla, she live-streamed my panic attack, like it was a joke." Vince's eyes darkened. He didn't say anything right away, just leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "Jesus, Ryan," he said finally, shaking his head. "I'm sorry, man. That's messed up." I nodded, swallowing hard. I don't know what's wrong with me. I should have seen it coming. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "There's nothing wrong with you. She's the one who's messed up, not you." I didn't argue, even though a part of me wanted to. I'd spent so long thinking this was all on me, that if I could just get my head right, Carla would stop looking at me like I was a burden. But sitting here, in the quiet safety of Vince's living room, I realized how twisted that was. "I don't know what to do next," I admitted. "I don't even want to go back to my place. I can't be around her right now." Vince nodded. "You can crash here, as long as you need. You know that." I felt a lump in my throat, but I just nodded back. "Thanks, man." He stood up, clapped me on the shoulder. "I'll grab you a blanket and a pillow. Get some rest, okay?" I didn't argue. I was so tired my bones ached. Vince disappeared down the hallway, and I leaned back into the couch cushions, closing my eyes for a minute. When he came back, he tossed the blanket over my shoulders and dropped the pillow at my side. "You don't have to talk about it anymore," he said, his voice quiet. "You just sleep. I'll be around if you need anything." I managed a small smile, the first one I'd felt in what felt like forever. "Thanks, Vince." He nodded and headed down the hall to his room, leaving me alone with the soft hum of the old fridge and the creak of the floorboards settling. For the first time since that night at the fire, I didn't feel completely alone. I woke up sometime after dawn, the blanket tangled around my legs and the couch cushions warm from my body. My phone was buzzing on the coffee table, the screen lit up with missed calls and endless messages. Carla, 70 missed calls, dozens of texts, apologies, excuses, please. Vince walked out of his room, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He took one look at my phone and shook his head. She's not worth it, he said. Let it ring. I swallowed, my fingers hovering over the phone. The guilt, the habit of fixing everything, of making it okay, that was still there, like an old scar. But Vince was right. I didn't owe Carla anything. I'm not picking up, I said finally, setting the phone face down on the table. Vince gave me a nod of approval. Good. She'll probably show up here next, though. Just be ready. I nodded, my chest tight but my mind clearer than it had been in weeks. Carla might come knocking, but I wasn't going to let her in this time. Not here. Not now. For once, I was choosing myself, and I could feel, even in that small decision, a tiny piece of strength starting to grow. I left Vince's place later that morning, my mind clearer but my body feeling like I'd been wrung out. I drove straight home, my heart hammering in my chest the whole way. Carla hadn't stopped calling, and my phone kept lighting up on the seat next to me like a beacon I wanted to smash. When I finally got to my apartment, I sat in the truck for a minute, gripping the wheel. It felt like I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't turn back from. I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and headed inside. The place smelled like stale air and the faint perfume of Carla's body spray. I walked through the living room, each step making the decision in my head louder. I couldn't let her back in. Not after what she'd done. I went straight to the keypad on the door. The code she'd known by heart, the one she'd used like it was her own. I punched in a new one, my fingers steady. The beep of the lock felt final, like a door closing on the past. Then I started gathering her things. Her clothes in the closet, her fancy shampoo bottles in the bathroom, the pair of boots she left by the door. I put it all in a cardboard box, my chest tight but my movement sure. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about drawing a line I should have drawn months ago. I just finished taping up the box when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but I saw the name Danny, Carla's best friend. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Hey, I said, my voice calm, tired. Ryan, what the hell is going on? Danny's voice was sharp, demanding. Carla's been blowing up my phone, saying you kicked her out. I took a breath. I didn't kick her out. She doesn't live here. She crossed a line, and I'm done. Ryan, she's freaking out, Danny snapped. She says you're ruining her life, that you're making her look like some villain. I closed my eyes, feeling the quiet in my apartment settle around me. She filmed my panic attack, Danny. She streamed it to her followers. That's not a misunderstanding. That's betrayal. There was a pause on the line. Look, I'm not saying what she did was okay, Danny said, her tone softening a little. But you can't just, what, shut her out completely? I'm not shutting her out, I said quietly. I'm protecting myself. Danny sighed, like she'd just run out of arguments. Fine, but you should know, her video's gone viral. It's all over her profile. People are not reacting well. I blinked. What do you mean? She thought it'd be funny, Danny said, her voice low. But it backfired. People are tearing her apart in the comments, saying she's heartless, that she exploited you. I let out a slow breath, a strange relief flooding through me. It wasn't that I wanted Carla to suffer, but maybe this was what she needed to see, that some lines can't be crossed without consequences. Thanks for letting me know, I said finally. Ryan, Danny said, her voice gentler now. I'm sorry. I didn't know she'd go that far. I hung up without saying anything else, my mind already racing. I pulled up Carla's profile, my fingers hovering over the screen. The comments were exactly like Danny said. People calling her out, demanding she apologize, telling her she was cruel. I didn't feel vindicated, just hollow. Like the last piece of the fantasy I'd been living in had been stripped away. She wasn't the person I thought she was. Maybe she never had been. Vince texted a minute later. Saw the video? It's ugly, man. But people see it for what it is. I nodded to myself. Then I went back to packing up the last of Carla's things, sealing the box with a final strip of tape. When I was done, I set it by the door, ready for her to take when she came by. I stood there for a minute, the apartment feeling too quiet and too clean. But somehow, it felt right. Like I was reclaiming something I'd given away too easily, my space, my peace, my right to say enough. It wasn't about getting even. It was about drawing a line in the sand and finally, stepping over it for good. Carla showed up just before sunset, knocking hard enough to rattle the door in its frame. I'd known she'd come eventually. When I opened the door, she looked like a mess, tear-streaked face, hair tangled, her eyes wild. She clutched the box of her things like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Ryan, she said, her voice cracking. Can we please talk? I didn't say anything at first, just stepped aside so she could come in. She set the box down on the coffee table like it was something fragile, then turned to me, hands clasped tight in front of her. "Please," she said, her voice soft and desperate. "I know I messed up. I know I shouldn't have filmed you, but you don't understand what it's like. People expect me to be funny, to show them everything. It was a mistake." I felt my jaw tighten. "A mistake? Carla, you filmed me having a panic attack. You humiliated me in front of strangers." I know, she said quickly, wiping her cheeks. "I didn't think it would blow up like this. I thought people would think it was interesting. I didn't realize how bad it looked." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words and how little they really meant. "And now that it's backfired, you're here." She nodded, her lip trembling. "Yes, people are sending me hate messages, calling me a monster. They're threatening me, Ryan. They're saying awful things. I need you to help me." I stared at her. "Help you how?" "Tell them it was fake," she pleaded, her voice almost breaking. "Tell them it was all staged. That I was just helping you work through your panic attacks in a performance or something. Please, Ryan, I'm begging you." My heart twisted at the desperation in her voice, but I shook my head. "I'm not going to lie for you, Carla. I won't be a part of that." Her eyes widened, her mouth opening like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Ryan, you don't understand. These people are destroying me. My page is everything. If this keeps going, I'll lose everything. Please." I took a step back, feeling the cold distance between us settle like a wall. "I'll put out a statement asking people not to harass you," I said slowly. "But that's it. I'm not going to cover up what you did." For a second, she looked like she might collapse, her shoulders slumping. Then her expression hardened. "So that's it? You're just going to let me deal with this alone? After everything I've done for you?" I almost laughed, bitter and sharp. "Everything you've done for me? Carla, you took something that broke me and turned it into a spectacle." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, like she couldn't believe I was actually standing my ground. "I'm done," I said quietly. "I'll ask people to stop attacking you, but I won't lie for you, and I won't protect you from the fallout." For a long moment, she just stood there, her breath ragged. Then she grabbed the box of her things, her fingers tight around the edges. "You'll regret this," she spat, her voice shaking with anger now. "When you're alone, when no one wants to deal with your shit, you'll realize you should have kept me." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. She turned and walked out, the door closing behind her with a dull click that felt final. I stood there for a moment, the quiet of the apartment wrapping around me like a blanket. My hands were shaking a little, but I felt something else too, a calm I hadn't felt in months. Like I'd finally stopped trying to fix something that was never mine to fix. As I watched her leave with her box of things, I realized I wasn't just letting go of Carla. I was letting go of everything I thought I had to carry alone. And in the empty space she left behind, I felt something like relief settle deep in my chest. It was a couple of days after Carla left for good when Emma, Carla's roommate, reached out to me. I'd never been especially close to Emma. She mostly kept to herself, working long hours at a local clinic. But she texted me out of the blue, asking if we could meet for coffee. There was something in her message that made me pause, a quiet urgency I couldn't ignore. We met at a small cafe near the river. The place smelled like burnt espresso and cinnamon, and the low hum of conversation felt oddly comforting. Emma was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner with a steaming cup in front of her. She looked nervous, her fingers tapping against the ceramic. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "What's going on?" She looked up, her dark eyes tired but determined. "I wanted to talk to you about Carla," she said, her voice low. "About everything that's happened." I frowned. "What about it?" Emma took a deep breath, glancing around like she was making sure no one was listening. "I've seen how she's treated you," she said quietly. "And I've seen how she's been trying to twist the story ever since people turned on her." I leaned back, surprised. "What do you mean?" She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, her hands trembling slightly. "I've been keeping track," she said. "Carla's been telling everyone she only filmed you because she was scared, that you were unstable, that she needed to protect herself." My stomach twisted. "She's telling people that?" Emma nodded. "Yeah, she's saying it was for her safety, that you were losing control." She met my eyes, her expression steady. "I know it's not true. I've seen the way she talks about you when she thinks no one's listening." She started scrolling through her phone, showing me screenshots of Carla's messages, texts to her friends, talking about how she was planning to film my panic attacks because it would boost her profile and show how real mental health stuff is. My hands curled into fists as I read the words, each line hitting like a punch. "She thought it would get her more followers," Emma said, her voice shaking with disgust. "She didn't care how much it hurt you." I swallowed hard, the anger in my chest mixing with something else, relief. Relief that I wasn't crazy, that someone else saw what I'd been trying to pretend wasn't there. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice rough. Emma looked down at her coffee for a moment, then back at me. Because I've been there, she said softly. I have panic attacks too. Not as bad as yours, maybe, but I know what it feels like when your body just takes over. And seeing her use that against you? It made me sick. I exhaled, the tightness in my chest easing just a little. Thank you, I said quietly. I didn't think anyone saw it. I saw it, she said. And I want to help you set the record straight. I can post these screenshots if you want, or just be there to back you up when people start asking questions. I nodded slowly, feeling a flicker of hope in the middle of everything. Yeah, I said. I think that would help. She gave me a small smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. I'm sorry it came to this, she said. You deserved better. I didn't have the words to tell her how much that meant, so I just reached across the table and gave her hand a quick squeeze. Thank you, I said again. She nodded. We'll get through this, she said. You're not alone in this anymore. For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it. Sitting there with Emma, the sun starting to dip low outside the cafe window, I felt like maybe there was a way out of this mess. Like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. And that was enough to keep me going. The fallout from Carla's video was worse than I could have imagined. Emma posted the screenshots she'd shown me, and people who'd once blindly believed Carla's version of events started to see the truth. The comments turned from confusion to outrage, and I felt a strange mix of relief and dread every time I opened my phone. But Carla wasn't done. She started posting vague accusations online, little jabs that didn't mention my name but left no doubt about who she was talking about. She called me controlling, said I had a temper, that she'd been scared of me for months. It was just enough to plant doubt, to make people wonder if maybe there was something more to the story. Emma messaged me every day, checking in. Don't let her get to you, she wrote once. Everyone sees who she really is now. And I tried to believe her. But every time I saw one of Carla's posts, each one painting me like the bad guy, I felt that old doubt creeping back in. Then my phone rang one morning, an unknown number. I hesitated, but curiosity won out. Hello, I said cautiously. Hi, is this Ryan Carter? The voice was crisp, professional. Yeah, who's this? This is Jennifer Caldwell. I'm with the HR department at Carla's office. We wanted to speak with you about a few concerns. My stomach dropped. Concerns? It's come to our attention that Carla's recent social media activity has drawn a lot of attention. Some of it has mentioned you directly or indirectly. We just wanted to clarify that you have not been involved in any kind of harassment campaign against her. I exhaled a shaky breath. No, absolutely not. I've never encouraged anyone to go after her. Thank you for confirming, Jennifer said, her voice warm and understanding. We're just trying to ensure everyone's safety. Carla has been very vocal about feeling threatened. She's lying, I said quietly, my voice tight. I understand, Jennifer said. We've also seen the posts that Emma shared. It's clear this situation has been very complicated. Yeah, I said. That's one word for it. We'll handle the internal side, she said gently. If there are any legal concerns, we'll let you know. But for now, just take care of yourself, okay? I thanked her and hung up, my hands shaking. Carla was trying to spin this story even harder, painting herself as the victim and me as the villain. But for the first time, it felt like I wasn't alone. Emma, Jennifer, even people online who were finally seeing the truth. It was more support than I'd had in months. I reached out to a lawyer Vince had recommended, just to be safe. She listened patiently as I explained everything: Carla's video, the online attacks, the calls from her office. I'll draft a cease and desist letter, she said calmly. Make it clear that you won't tolerate her lies. It's a good first step. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with relief. The next day, Carla's parents reached out to me. Her dad called, his voice hesitant and ashamed. Ryan, he said, I wanted to say I'm sorry. I had no idea she was capable of this. We never meant for you to be dragged through the mud like this. I didn't know what to say at first. My mind went blank. Thank you, I managed finally, my voice shaking. That means a lot. We're trying to get her to see sense, he said. She's in a bad place, but you shouldn't have to carry the weight of her choices. I swallowed hard. I know, and I'm done carrying it. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Carla's lies were falling apart, the truth shining through. And as I hung up with her dad, I realized something. I wasn't the same man I'd been when this all started. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting for my life, for my peace, and for my right to be seen for who I really was. And that was enough. A few weeks later, the dust started to settle. Carla's posts slowed down, her once flashy profile now quiet, her updates replaced by a hollow silence. The anger that had driven her was gone, replaced by a sort of desperate, confused flailing that didn't land anymore. She'd lost her audience, and she knew it. I kept going to therapy, kept taking the medication Dr. Feldman had prescribed. It wasn't a magic fix, but the panic attacks started to feel a little less sharp around the edges. Some nights I still woke up drenched in sweat, the memory of Angela's voice echoing in my head. But I didn't feel like I had to hide from it anymore. Vince and I started meeting up more often, grabbing coffee or just sitting on his back porch, talking about anything but the fire. He never pushed, never asked me to talk about the things I wasn't ready to say out loud. And in that quiet, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: calm. Emma checked in regularly too, sending texts that felt like a lifeline on days when the weight of it all pressed down a little too hard. "You're not alone in this," she'd say, and I'd believe her. She even shared more about her own panic attacks, the way her hands would tremble, how her heart would race for no reason at all. It helped to know I wasn't the only one. One evening, as I was closing up the firehouse for the night, Vince stopped me at the door. "You know," he said, a quiet smile on his face, "you're tougher than most of the guys I know." I laughed, a real one that reached my eyes. "Don't let them hear you say that." He clapped me on the shoulder. "I mean it. Carla tried to tear you down, and you're still standing." I nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle in my chest. I think I'm finally done with all of it," I said, "with feeling like I have to fix everything, or be everything for everyone." Vince's smile widened. "That's the best thing I've heard in a long time, brother." That night, I drove home with the windows down, the cool spring air filling the truck. I thought about Carla, about everything I'd let her take from me. And I realized that walking away hadn't just exposed her for who she really was, it had shown me who I was, too. I wasn't just the guy who couldn't save Angela. I wasn't just the guy who flinched at the sound of fireworks or choked on the smell of smoke. I was the guy who stood up for himself, who put boundaries around his heart, and said, "Enough." I still had scars, inside and out. But I also had people who saw me, really saw me, and didn't turn away. Vince, Emma, even Carla's parents, in their own way. And in that small, hard-won circle, I found a quiet strength I didn't know I had. One morning, as the sun poured into my apartment and lit up the empty couch where Carla used to sprawl, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't let her story be the only thing people remembered. I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. I'd keep going to therapy. I'd keep leaning on the people who cared. And most of all, I'd keep listening to that small voice inside me, the one that said I deserved peace, deserved kindness, deserved to be seen for more than my worst day. It was enough. For now, it was enough. And that was the best start I could ever ask for.